Okay, y'all ready?
We're so
All right,
ready.
before I call the meeting to order, please bear with us just a minute as Ms. Carter says a prayer for the council.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we come to you in this new year with new dreams and new hopes, but still, Lord, we are your children and we're here asking you to lead us and to guide us. There is a lot of turmoil in the world, Lord, and so many different things happening, but you give us the strength to carry on because we know you'll never leave us or ever forsake us, never forsake us. And so, Father God, we ask for your guidance as we go into this year in all that we do. Give us the strength to do and carry out your will. And Lord, protect our first responders and our staff as they go out to serve the people of our town as well as our neighbors in mutual aid and support. Lord, as a side note, we look at neighborhoods in California and other places, our neighbors from the West, and still keep them in prayer. Help them to recover, help them to build back better, and give them the comfort that only you can bring by putting your arms around them and remembering them as they struggle with all of the disasters that they faced in the last year. Protect us, lead us, and guide us as we go forth, Father God, and please give us the strength and the wisdom to do your will. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Ms. Carter. I'm gonna call the meeting to order now, and please put your phones on vibrate. And let's stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank y'all for doing that with me. First thing we've got here is approval of the agenda. Is there any changes to be made?
I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Announcements. Hi, Miss Jessica.
Hi there.
Good evening. We've got a long list of exciting programs and events coming up. All of these will be held at the Leland Cultural Arts Center. We'll start with next week. We have Latin Dance on January 21st from 7 to 10. Homeschool Studio, January 21st from 10 to 12. Swing Dance, January 24th from 7 to 10. Open House is February 1st from 10 to 1. DIY Fidget Toy is February 3rd from 5:45 to 6:45. Door hanger painting is February 4th from 6 to 8. Galentine's Day figurative painting workshop will be February 13th from 6 to 8. A Taylor Swift dance party will be February 18th from 5 to 6. Exploring African American culture through collage art will be February 20th from 5 to 7. And lastly, Working Small Everywhere with a Sketchbook is February 20th from 10 to 4.
Wow, busy February.
That's right.
I take it Taylor Swift's not going to be here.
I don't think so. I don't believe so, but wouldn't rule it out.
Never know. Never know unless you show up.
Yeah, you never know.
If she is, it will be on her own expense.
Yes, it would be not a taxpayer expense, so.
Yeah, we couldn't afford her.
No stuff.
All right, thank you, Jessica. Presentations, Be the One, the American Legion program, presented by First Vice Commander John Hacker.
And just for public disclosure and full disclosure, I'm a member of the American Legion Post, a proud member.
Well, so is my husband, so.
You are. Can we put the screen up? And do I have the clock working for me?
You're good.
So I know,
You're not at 3 minutes, so you're good.
Okay.
only 3. Okay. Thank you. My name is John Hacker. I'm with the American Legion here in Johnny Jacobs Post, 68. You walk in the front here and you'll see a rock out there, some stone, and it's dedicated to Johnny Jacobs, who was killed in action in October 1968. John and I served in the same IO. I didn't know him, but we were there in the same year. They lost 17,000 souls. So I always like to say that John and I have the same mud. I'm here to talk to you tonight about Be the One. It's an important program here that the American Legion 2 years ago made an initiative that they wanted to raise awareness in the community about suicide. Suicide's a scary word. Veteran suicide is a tragedy because we take our very best people, our young people, and we turn them into the best service in the world. No one's better than us. And then after 3, 4, 5, 10 years maybe, we turn them loose, and suddenly they're in a society they're not familiar with. Veterans speak a different language. We talk a different language. We're just different. So they get lost. Most of them are going to be fine, but then there's that percentage that they fail, and we have failed them. We veterans have failed our veterans. So with the initiative, we decided that we needed to do something about it, and our Leland Post takes the lead in the state. By the way, I was given a wonderful position, and high-paying position, as the state committee chairman for Be the One. I haven't had a check yet, so I don't know where it's at. They keep telling me it's checks in the mail. Don't worry about it. So we got a committee, and we said, look, what can we do? I've gone out and talked to Rotary. I've talked to Kiwanis. We've been educated people about, made them aware of suicide awareness. And many people have come up to me and said, I didn't know. I just didn't know, John. 25 people a day? How many people is in here? 25 people? This represents how many people die a day from suicide veterans. We're the highest count of that. So what we did was we said that we need to take this to the next level. So we created a system, if you will. How do we get the message to help people from here to the street, to the law enforcement, to fire, to service providers? How do we get that to them? This wonderful book that comes out every other year has all kinds of information on there. But the problem is you have to have the book, have to have it in your hand, and you have to go to the page, and you got to email it or find the number to get the help. Now, how's the officer going to do that at 2 o'clock in the morning? Now, we could order 700,000 books like this, because that's about how many veterans we have in the state, and another 300,000 who's in service. And that doesn't even count the people who are not in the service who need this service. So how do we do that? So my committee formed, and we said, okay, we think we can crack this, John. I said, okay, let's do it. So the key is, how do we get this to the officer, to the fire, to the service providers, without the book? So we said, well, we can create a link. We can call it Be the One Connects. So that way it's an actual link that people can go to find that information. Wonderful. But still, how do you get it to them? Because they're on the street. Do they have a computer? Or they may have a cell phone. But how do they get that to them? Well, we think we found the solution. It's called the Be the One card. We first put it on a business card, like on my card. John Hacker, Department Commander for Be the One. But you know what happens when you put them on a business card? They usually go in the trash. So I said, we need to find something that is more tangible, that people can use, that an officer can have in his prowler. Our fire department, our service provider, somebody says, look, I need some help. Oh, here. You tap on this card, and it goes directly to your phone. And you can either put it on your phone, or you can have this every time you tap it. What it does is comes to this. This is what you see on the phone. By the way, that's our billboard. John Altman from Lamar, we were able to get a public service announcement on this, which was very nice. So when you get on this, you can scroll down. The resources. You can come down here to resource, and you can click on that. Takes you back to the top. Now the officer or whoever, a service provider, fireman, can scroll down, find your local resources by category. Many cases, it's food. A lot of times I have people on the street, the veterans, who say, look, I just need some food. We're running a little short of the family, whatever. Well, you click on this, and it takes you to the different providers. There's Brunswick Family Assistance. We do a lot of work with them, wonderful organization. American Red Cross. Now, all this, American Red Cross, is in this wonderful book. But you can't get to it unless you got the book. If you don't read the book, you can't get to it. So they can get to that with this way. So you can scroll down. Good Shepherd. These are all organizations that we've talked to, that we said, look, we want to put you on this program. They said, let's do it. Whatever we can do to get the information to the street or to the end user is fine with us. Let's do it. And we're constantly looking to add more. Again, United Way, a wonderful organization. I've worked with them a lot. Housing, it goes back to that. And you can have a tab, you just keep scrolling down and you can go to the next area. Or you can go to the top. It goes down. Employment, that's another one, right? Next up, wonderful organization. So the point is, an addiction. Anchor Initiative, I've worked with a lot of them on that too. So the thing is, there's about 60 of them on there right now. I stopped at 60 because I got scared. You know, now my committee's always saying, add more, add more. Well, let's just take it one step at a time. Let's get it out there. So we stopped at 60 right now, but we're going to go further. But the thing is, you've got this program here that we can give to the service providers, the police, the fire, EMS. They have it in their hands. I did a ride-along several years ago with the sheriff's department, and he says, John, I see people on the street that they're not doing anything at 2 o'clock in the morning, but they're okay, but I don't know what to do with them. So I have to either take them to the police department, to the shelter, or whatever. It takes them off the street for about an hour and a half, the police officer or the sheriff. They're not able to protect our community. If I had this, I could go faster. We've already talked to Highway Patrol. He wants to put it in his cars. Again, we did it with plastic, so it won't get lost. This is not to go in somebody's hands or a wallet. This is to go on your desk. Habitat for Humanity has it. Pulls it right up, clicks on it if it needs help. I think I'm getting close here. It's groundbreaking. That's the best way it's been described to me. It's not my words. Somebody else told me. This is groundbreaking. This is new. Well, it's social media at its best. It's Be the One. We have a program called SAVE, S-A-V-E. Seek out, ask, verify, and expedite those people who need help. So we talked to many organizations. This is our best tool of marketing. Yes, I have my little pen on there that says Be the One. And yes, I have my little wristband that says Be the One. But I ask everyone here to think about it. How do we do this? I've lost 3 people, 2 of my veterans who are in my squad, and a child to suicide. This has to stop. We will never go away, but we can make a difference. And I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, John. I think it's an awesome program, and I appreciate you taking the lead on that.
Madam Mayor, if I can ask, take a point of personal preference. Is it possible perhaps that we can direct the staff to look at getting those cards into our police force and fire departments?
I think y'all have met, haven't
Have we
you?
done that before?
Hasn't there been a meeting?
We've
It
had a
was with Neil,
discussion.
wasn't it?
By the way, on February 11th,
that
we're having
was-
a meeting on Be the One rollout about this program too. That's over at the Brunswick Community College Leland campus. We have talked to the police and what have you. So I think what we have to do is just kind of be able to connect the dots so that we can come and actually make a presentation to the police. I'd like to start off with Leland Police already and take it one step further, how they want us to move forward. We don't just move in here. We want to make sure that the organizations or the police department, whoever we're talking to, says, come on in, let's talk about a plan. We're putting this booth in the Veterans Center in the airport too. So yes, I welcome to any of that I can bring and get this to them. I only have 2,000 of these. Okay, so I can get more.
And I ask that of my fellow council here as a veteran who has also, like John, lost a friend who served to suicide. And so this is personal. I think most of us who've served long enough, unfortunately, know someone who's taken their life. And so it's very personal to all of us who've served, and because we're brothers and sisters in arms, and we tend to have a relationship that unless you've done that, you don't get. And I know you're married to a veteran, so you get that. But if there's anything we as a council can maybe throw some support and say that, see if we can
And it's something we need to work on,
Yeah.
and they need to
turn
work.
to staff and say,
Yeah.
ask if you could
That's
support
where it's
this
gotta
and set up a
start. They
meeting.
gotta be with staff.
We'd be available at any time. All you have to do is give me a call and say, be there. And I will be the one.
I was at the college when you did
Yes, ma'am.
your presentation, and the highway patrolmen and the sheriff's deputies that were there and all. It was very eye-opening.
Yeah, and I know that we have a number of veterans amongst our police force and fire department, so I think they would feel this the same way that John and I do. So if we could, maybe as a council, just throw support about the staff talking to and getting with John, I would appreciate that.
John, are you coordinating this with other legions in the area?
Oh, yes, sir. I went to a district meeting yesterday, my first district meeting, 19 posts. And the district commander said, okay, you're having a meeting on the 11th of February, right? Yes, sir. He says, I want every one of you there. I want all 19 posts there. If you're not there, I'll be there. And if you're not there, then you have to meet with me, the district commander, who's a Marine, so you know how they are.
Yeah.
But yes, we are, and we actually have a program that we called getting it's a 10-point program. How do you get this started in your post? So we've already put this out to the department. They came to me and said, what do you do next? What do we do? So I said, well, we got this 10-point program. So we put this out, we just got this out to them. And what I'll be doing is following up with them and saying, look, whatever you need. Now, they can't do what we've done, okay? I want to let you know, as you know, we've gotten grants that's helped us with this program. And it's done very well for us. But I tell the other posts, start small. Just start off with 1 or 2 people. Reach out to the service providers. Reach out to the law enforcement. Tell them you're here. Can we explain the program to you? Take this to them. This is very generic. This started off as a Johnny Jacobs program. And then somebody in the department said, is this a Leland program or is this a Legion program? Well, it's a Leland program that's by the Legion, okay? And I'll slap you upside the head. I can't help it if our community is taking the lead. So what we do here, I want to make the franchise.
I think it was very impressive that day. The bus was here from Jacksonville, I
Yeah,
believe.
yes, it was.
They have a bus, and they will go to events and park and have people there. They've got the computer set up in there with printers, everything, and if somebody's having some problems, you know, they just got home from the war zone or whatever, and they're having flashbacks or whatever, they can go in and get help immediately at an event that they go to. And I think
Yes,
it's
sir.
wonderful that that's offered.
That's right. It's come a long ways. North Carolina really is one of the leads on this. I came from a country far, far away called California.
And that's probably because we have one of the highest number of veterans in states than
Yeah.
the other 50.
But one of the things is
Second only to
our attitude
Texas.
towards our veterans here are much better, very positive. But one of the biggest problems, again, is they just don't know what to do. We don't know what to do to help our veterans. We didn't realize this is some serious issue. Now, what can we do? So our community reaches out, but we need to reach out to our community. And my committee will do this.
We find that there's a number of homeless, a lot of people, particularly this time of year, worry about the homeless population with the cold. And sometimes we find that some of those folks are veterans
Yes.
and just have not, for whatever reasons, reached out to take advantage of the Veterans Administration, Veterans Affairs programs that are out there. And so and sometimes they just don't feel comfortable talking to anyone. They'll talk to another veteran, but they won't necessarily talk to a
Correct.
civilian.
We
So-
don't like to talk to other people. We just don't know what to say.
Right. So again, if we can start the ball rolling here and see if this is something that our police and fire department maybe can have the little card there to be able to pass that information along, I think that would be something.
Do you have our card? Do you have the card?
I think I got the business card with it on
Well,
it.
may I?
Oh, I've got the carrying case and everything.
Yes,
yeah.
sir. Can you give that to them, please?
I think what's so great about this is, what you find with so many of these services is that the barriers to access are the greatest obstacle, and this is such a great way to break those down. So thank you for your work on this.
I appreciate it very
John.
much. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, who wants one?
Give.
Okay. Thank you, Commander. All right, public comment. Is anybody signed up for regular public comment?
Yes, ma'am. We have one person signed up, Stan Powers. If you could come up to the podium and state your name and address for the record. And as we go through tonight's meeting, anybody that signs up, you state your name and address, and you're given 3 minutes to speak.
Hi, my name is Stan Powers. I live at 141 South Palm Drive. I think the board or the council is kind of used to seeing me. I ask the same thing every time. I live in Mallory Creek. Mallory Creek is getting a lot of development along Mallory Creek Drive. We have a couple of new developments that were actually just built out, being Magnolia and Pinnacle. And we're also having Del Webb being built, and that's going to create a lot of traffic on Mallory Creek Drive. Right now, Lynn Vetter gave us one pedestrian crosswalking sign, which helps a lot. Thank you. I'm asking for 2 more. One would be on the corner of Cove Landing and Pinecone, where one girl got hit already. It's a bend, and it's kind of dangerous when you're going west. So I'd like one there. We could also use another one on the corner of Emblewood and Mallory Creek Drive, because that's where a lot of people cross over from the resident side over to our park side. So that would help a lot. So this is like the 3rd time I've asked for it. I'll keep coming back. So if you could, I'd appreciate it. I know the budget's tight, but we already had one person hit. And with all the extra traffic, and then we also have we have D.R. Horton wants to rezone, and that's going to create more traffic. And then we have another development down on the other side, which is Riverwalk Point. So that's going to create a lot of traffic, and it's going to almost look like 133. So it's going to be very hard from crossing one side of the street to the other. And I know you don't like street sign, like stoplights there. So this would help a lot. Now, you have the high visibility lines going across, but because the crosswalking sign that was put on Bimini, no one's stopping anymore. They just stop on Bimini. But all the other corners, they don't see the sign, so they just keep going. People in Mallory Creek know to stop if they see the high visibility lines, but people from Brunswick Forest, they have the signs there, so if they don't see the sign, they're not stopping. So that would help a lot. And I don't want to come to next meeting, so if you could. Thanks.
Why, you don't want to come see us?
I see you all the time.
Shame on you. Thank you, Stan, for showing up. All right. Next, we have on the agenda approval of consent agenda. Does anyone have any conflict or disclosure they need to make on anything on consent agenda?
No.
Do we have a motion?
I move we adopt the consent agenda.
Second?
All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. I'll now open public hearing amending the town's official zoning map to conditionally rezone Brunswick County tax parcels and approve a master land use plan amendment for Mallory Creek Plantation. Do we have any conflict or disclosure?
No.
No.
Okay, before we start on this, I want to make sure everybody understands how we're going to work this. This is a public hearing, so we will hear a presentation from the staff. Then the applicant will be allowed 15 minutes for a presentation. We will then hear comments from any members of the public that have signed up to speak. First, from anyone in support of the proposal, and then from anyone in opposition to the proposal. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person. So we'll start with the staff, then we'll go with the applicants, public comment, and then council can talk. Okay? Hey, Ben.
Hey, how are you guys? Good to see you all this evening. So we'll be going over item 8.2, which is a conditional zoning map amendment for Mallory Creek Mixed Use Project. So we'll start out with some general considerations for conditional rezonings. These are outlined and provided to us in general statute. First of which is, does the proposed zoning align with the town's adopted goals and visions? Another consideration is the proposed use more appropriate than what's currently permitted under the existing zoning. So just two things there to kind of frame this presentation. So what is a conditional rezoning, especially when you're comparing it to a regular rezoning, which we see a little bit more often? Conditional rezonings and general rezonings are pretty similar, but a conditional rezoning in the name, of course, it includes conditions or restrictions that are agreed upon by the applicant and property owners, as well as the town. These conditions typically ensure alignment with town's adopted goals and plans, as well as adequately addresses any impacts or potential impacts of development. So comparing the two, in a general rezoning, your zoning changes are applied universally, whereas under conditional rezoning, it's very site-specific. In a general rezoning, there's no specific conditions or requirements tied to it, whereas there are with conditional rezonings. And under a general rezoning, community input may vary. It's typically less involved as it is with a conditional rezoning process. So a little background on this particular conditional rezoning. The applicant on behalf of the property owners is Thomas & Hutton, LLC. The property owners are, there's three of them, Wilmington West, Mallory Creek Land and Timber, as well as Mallory Creek Plantation HOA. And the conditional rezoning is comprised of about 8 parcels. And those parcels are shown right here in the middle. So we have Mallory Creek Plantation there to the left or west of the site, Brunswick Forest even further to the west. Immediately to the north, we have Fire Station 52. And across the street, across 133, we've got Brunswick Cove Nursing Center and Riverwalk Point there to the south. To give a brief timeline on what's happened so far, we received the rezoning application on October 1st. We'll say this looks similar to, and is similar to, a previous application we've seen in the past, but this application is separate and distinct. On October 4th, the planning department gave some feedback on the proposed site plan to get it closer aligned with the town's ordinance. On October 15th and 17th, community meetings were held. And at their December planning board meeting, they voted 4-3 to recommend approval for this conditional rezoning. The conditional rezoning proposal would be rezoning from PUD and C1 to conditional R6, which is a medium density residential district, and conditional C1. The current PUD area is nearly 10 acres and current C1 is about 21.5. The switch would be R6 amounting to about 27.5 acres, with the commercial conditional district at about 4.5, nearly 4.5. And we'll dive into the site plan in a little bit more depth, but just to give you kind of a higher level, it includes 127 single-family townhomes, which is about 5.8 dwelling units per acre, 5,000 square foot of restaurant space, 15,000 square foot of retail, and 10,000 square foot of office space. To touch on the 2 community outreach meetings, the first was scheduled for September 20th, but rescheduled to October 15th due to weather. The second was a couple days later, October 17th. The community did raise a few concerns surrounding noise level, traffic on Highway 133, as well as Mallory Creek Drive, the potential for clear cutting of the subject area. They requested buffers adjacent to existing homes be left undisturbed, and also requested the townhomes be single story. To provide some area context and existing conditions, the entire subject area is about 31.5 acres, with the majority of it zoned C1, 21.5 acres, and about 10 acres PUD, and it's currently undeveloped with the exception of a stormwater retention pond. To the north, we have Fire Station 52. To the east, we've got Highway 133 or River Road. Across River Road, we've got a collection of single-family homes, a child care facility, as well as a senior living facility. To the south of the property, just across Mallory Creek Drive, we've got recently approved developments that are under construction, Riverwalk Point and Pelican Landing. And to the west, we have Mallory Creek Plantation PUD, which as it sits is between constructed and approved, a little over 2,500 units. Here is an aerial map of the site. Right in the middle is that existing stormwater retention pond. The rest of the property is either forested or partially cleared. Here's a map showing those existing zonings, most of it C1, the portion to the south PUD. And if approved, this is what our zoning map would look like. The hatching indicates conditional, the conditional nature of the rezoning. The yellow is R6 and the pink is C1. As this application includes removing some area of PUD, that's why we have the master land use plan amendment aspect to it. So this project would remove nearly 10 acres from the PUD area. And how that would affect Mallory Creek and their total density. We currently allow a maximum in PUDs, a maximum of 6 dwelling units per acre. So if you built to 6 dwelling units per acre, the change in dwelling units per acre, the change in density from taking this piece out would change from 5.4 to 5.45 dwelling units per acre. Of course, Mallory Creek is not built out to its full density, so the actual change in density would go from 2.57 units per acre to 2.6 units per acre. So a small change that's just related from taking out 10 acres from the PUD. And again, the development site is sitting around 5.8 dwelling units per acre. As with all of our rezonings, we look to our future land use map for guidance. So we have 2 categories on these parcels. We have high development potential as well as natural resource-oriented development potential. The high development potential is there when it's close to existing infrastructure, typically major roads, and also has no environmental sensitivities present, or no known environmental sensitivities present. I'll go into some of the aspects that go into that natural resource oriented development potential category in a minute. Also, on our future land use maps throughout the planning area, we identify areas of nodal growth. That was one of the types of growth that the community preferred when we were going through our Leland 2045 process. So this site sits between 2 potential nodes of growth, 2 potential neighborhood nodes. And neighborhood nodes are kind of the middle ground in our nodal growth patterns. Typically, we want to see mixed uses here, a variety of different housing types, neighborhood scaled retail, so not your Highway 17 retail, but scaled back, smaller offices, walkable streets, greenway and trail accesses. So the idea behind neighborhood nodes is to provide that mix of services so you don't have to go out beyond your neighborhood for basic needs. The proposed site plan incorporates many of the main tenets of a neighborhood node type. So to go into some of the reasonings for the natural resource-oriented development potential areas, these were based on NCDEQ maps. They have some maps that use remote sensing, so not ground truthed, but essentially predict where wetlands might be. They do note on their maps that they're advisory in nature, and it's remote sensed data and has inherent errors and accuracy limits. But they identified the possibility for some wetlands in this area, as well as throughout most of Mallory Creek. And also potential soil conditions. So an identified group D potential soil condition typically have slower infiltration rates, higher runoff potential when thoroughly wet, and typically consist of clays or other hard pan soils that keep water more towards the surface. There are no known special flood hazard areas on the map. The closest ones are across the street, closer to the Brunswick River. In our conditional rezonings, we do require tree surveys. Since the sending out of the agenda, I was provided with an updated tree survey, so I'll kind of go into that and what significant trees might be found there. We don't have any ordinance requirements for those significant trees, but it's intended to sort of paint the holistic picture for these conditional rezonings as to what's on the ground currently. So we define significant trees as any hardwood or coniferous cone-bearing tree with a diameter at breast height, so it's about 4.5 feet off the ground diameter, of 24 inches, or any dogwood, American holly, or other flowering tree with a DBH of 8 inches or greater. And so the tree survey found a sweet gum measuring about 15 inches, 4 maples, 9, 10, and 2 12-inch ones. There are also 3 live oaks located in the Mallory Creek Drive right-of-way. It's not within the project boundary, but it's just adjacent. I'll kind of show you where those are here. So scaled out on the left-hand side, zoomed in on the right-hand side, you have the Sweet Gum, which is towards the north of the property, closer to Fire Station 52. And then we have 2 maples, a 9-inch and a 10-inch, closer to that retention pond, more in the middle of the property. And then this is on the PUD parcel, closer to Mallory Creek Drive. We've got 2 maples there, both 12 inches in diameter at breast height. And then the bottom right image shows the 3 live oaks that are just outside and within the Mallory Creek Drive right-of-way. Talking about what kind of development we have existing surrounding this area. We have the adjacent townhomes at Kellerton Court and Jensen Lane. That's that larger hatched area. It's about 9.75 acres, 59 units, which amounts to a little over 6 units per acre. The townhomes on Grace Point Drive, in the bottom right there, about 6.01 units per acre. Along the western side of the subject property, we have those single-family detached homes along North and South Culverton. That total area is about 13 acres, 53 units, nearly 4 units per acre. And Pinnacle Point, it's not directly adjacent to the subject parcel, but it is a townhome community located within Mallory Creek. And there are 40.5 acres, 203 units, sitting right at 5 units per acre. So just to give you a little bit of context on what's close and what is a similar townhome development also within Mallory Creek. So to talk a little bit about the proposed plan in greater depth, like I mentioned before, it's 127 townhomes with associated parking. We got 30,000 square foot total of commercial space broken down between restaurant, retail, and office. There would be a total of 4 stormwater ponds, 1 existing, 3 new. They're proposing an 8-foot multi-use path, which follows the proposed Gula Geechee Heritage Trail alignment. A variety of amenities, playground, fitness area, stage in the commercial node, as well as bike racks throughout. They're also proposing streetscape buffers along existing and proposed roads, so that would be your street trees. They're proposing on-street parking in some areas. And the site plan also notes that no burning will take place as part of demolition and land disturbance activities. And that's important because with a conditional rezoning, notes and features on the site plan are a part of that approval. So if they say no burning will take place on the site plan, that is a condition of approval, should it be approved. A few current pitfalls of the proposed plan. Now these will be cleaned up through the TRC process after approval if it is approved. So we got to clean up exactly where passive open space areas are, make sure that they're left undisturbed, and as well as fix some of the parallel parking to make sure it's meeting the town width requirements there. Again, those are 2 things that will get cleaned up through the TRC process. So here is the proposed plan. I'll pull up the laser pointer here if I can find it. It's usually at the bottom. Sabrina, do you know where the... I was looking for the laser pointer that was on the laptop. Technical difficulties, give me a second here. It's usually already up.
It's not up here. No idea. Unless it's under display settings.
That's cool. We'll wing it. So sorry, I usually have a laser pointer up here and I can kind of circle things, but I don't know where it's gone. So on the left-hand side of the proposed site plan, we have the majority of those townhomes, with some townhomes that border on the bottom of the screen against the existing single-family and townhomes. In the top right corner, that's that commercial area where you have your restaurant space, office space, and retail space and associated parking. The extension of the Gula Geechee Heritage Trail follows 133 and curves in along Mallory Creek Drive. Those larger oblong gray areas are your stormwater ponds, and there are some there's sidewalks lining the streets, some sidewalks throughout and between the development to promote connectivity, and the darker green areas are your buffers and streetscape buffers. talk a little bit about current permitted uses as the properties sit right now. So in C1, there's a whole host of different commercial uses you can have, from medical uses, kennels, restaurants, contractor type uses, some storage uses, hotels, trailer sales. Under PUD, which provides a lot of residential uses and some commercial uses, you can have hotels, ambulances, convenience stores, rec facilities, some contracting uses, restaurants, kennels, doctor, dentist offices. And then I wanted also to go into some of the recent commercial property inquiries that we've been getting in the past couple of months. And those have centered around trailer sales, hotels, landscaping contractor yards, and auto parts stores. So those are some of the uses that people are asking, hey, can I do this? Where can I do this? Focusing in on that commercial node and highlighting why conditional rezonings can be a useful tool for municipal control growth and what it looks like in particular. On the left-hand side is a zoomed-in version of the proposal in the site plan for the layout of the commercial area. And on the right-hand side is an area of similar size and roughly similar shape that's existing. It's the 7-Eleven, Cookout area, and Dunkin' Donuts. So all of those uses are permitted in a C1 district as is, and that's what development can look like by right. And again, on the left-hand side is the proposal for the commercial node. So on the right-hand side of the existing commercial we have over there on the 17 corridor, we don't have those shared community spaces like we do in this conditional rezoning proposal, where we have central fountains, walkways, stage areas, things like that. So just to highlight how we can use conditional rezonings to benefit the town. So we'll talk a little bit about traffic generation. So the estimated average daily trips of this particular site plan is about 2,400, with 170 trips occurring in the AM peak hours, 226 in the PM peak hours. NCDOT lists level of services for all of their roadways, and that's how they identify issues, traffic issues, or areas that might need further changes, modifications. The level of service on Highway 133 at this area is a level of service of A, which is the highest level of service. They start to look for improvements when you reach level service D and F. The planning capacity of 133 in this area is a little over 15,000. As of 2022, which is the most up-to-date counts that I could find, they're sitting at about 6,600 annual average daily trips. So that's average daily trips over the course of a year. Regardless of all this, if approved, a TIA, traffic impact analysis, would be required as part of that technical review committee to further and more specifically look into the traffic impacts of this development on surrounding existing intersections. As with all of our zoning map amendments, we compare them to our adopted plans, so we'll go in a little bit of how it's consistent and some areas where it might not be consistent. So we in our 2045 plan, we promote transportation connectivity, especially expansion of trail networks. This site plan provides bicycle infrastructure via multi-use paths, as well as sidewalks for pedestrian infrastructure, and it also expands the planned Gulagichi Heritage Trail Network. We promote principles of smart growth, which, boiling it down to a couple words, essentially means a mix of building types and uses. This project does provide that. It provides a horizontal mix of residential and commercial uses, all within a short walk of one another. Kind of the idea behind smart growth principles is everybody should be able to reach all their basic needs without having to get into the automobile or travel very far. Our theme of highly valued and protected natural and cultural resources promotes coordinating parks, land uses, zoning corridors, and greenway plans to expand that open space connectivity. And open space connectivity is typically achieved through trail networks. And again, this is expanding that Gulagichi Heritage Trail. Our 2045 plan also promotes growth where there's existing infrastructure. Of course, this borders both Mallory Creek Drive and 133. It also promotes development that supports multimodal transportation. So again, making use of multi-use paths that you can walk and bike along, roadways, sidewalks, things like that. And also locating jobs near where people live, which again, the incorporation of that commercial node within a neighborhood does just that. 2045 plan also promotes locating jobs close to high concentrations of households for the reason of reducing impacts to traffic and commute times. So placing where people work close to where they live. Of course, this area is one of the main residential populated areas in the town. So incorporating commercial uses into the planning of residential areas around the area is important. We also promote incorporating multimodal access to community spaces, open areas, and trails throughout the communities. Of course, this site plan incorporates multi-use paths which connect the townhomes to the commercial areas and vice versa, as well as connecting some of those amenities, whether it's the stage area and the commercial side of things or the fitness area and the playground closer towards the townhomes. Now, not all plans meet every aspect of our 2045 plan, and that's okay, but I do want to highlight some areas where maybe this plan falls short of some of the identified strategies in Leland 2045. So we promote the notion of development forms that are more resilient to hazards and promote BMPs, best management practices. This project doesn't offer any small-scale BMPs at the moment for stormwater management, but there are things you could do to lessen the strain on stormwater ponds. We also promote implementing green building designs. Again, that's something that the site plan does not specifically mention. We also promote required road, bike, and pedestrian infrastructure connectivity between developments. This proposed site plan does provide road and pedestrian connections between developments, but doesn't incorporate bike lanes into the design. So you can bike along the multi-use paths, but of course you have to get to the multi-use path first. So if you're living at the homes, you don't exactly have a protected bicycle path to those features. Bit on the planning board action. At their December meeting, they voted 4-3 to recommend approval, finding it consistent with the 2045 themes and strategies that we just went over, and also reasonable and in the public interest as it balances the growing need for a wider range of housing types, along with the need for commercial space in the immediate area. So that's the end of my presentation. So we'll turn it over to the applicant's presentation now.
Okay, and if
Click.
more than one of you is going to speak, y'all combined, you've got up to the 15 minutes, okay?
Oh, thank you. We had a couple of slides. Okay. All right. Good evening. My name is John Danford. I'm the project manager with Thomas & Hutton. We're a civil engineering firm out of Myrtle Beach, located on Burroughs and Chapin, in the heart of Myrtle Beach. I appreciate staff. Thanks for the presentation. It's very well done. Thank you for being here tonight and taking this under consideration. I'm going to try and be short to leave the time for my team here. I want to hit on the planning points, kind of how we approach this project. And really, the big thing here is creating opportunity. It's 127 townhomes. Last census said that there's about 2.3 people per household, 2.36 people per household in Leland, which means this is an opportunity for about 297 citizens to call the town of Leland home. It's also an opportunity for some commercial uses, specifically 5,000 square feet of restaurant, 15,000 square feet of retail, and 10,000 square feet of office. We will be limited to those uses, even though C1 does allow more than those uses. It allows kennels, trade shops, boat storage, trailer sales, towing services. But because this is a conditional rezoning, we're going to be tied to the uses that are listed on the plan. And those uses were developed so that we could build the traffic impact analysis and generate the numbers that would reflect what we're actually building here. And so that's what we're looking to do here. We're not looking at gas stations. We're not looking at kennels with outdoor runs. We're not looking at towing services or boat yards. We're looking at restaurants, retail, and office uses. The community, in my opinion, can be described as a park with houses and businesses. I say this because more than 17 of the 31.5 acres is dedicated to common area, recreation, and green space. This is everything outside of the road right-of-way, the parking areas, and the buildings. 17 acres dedicated to common area and the uses therein. The streets are based on NCDOT's traditional neighborhood development standards. The goal here is activated streetscapes for people instead of just roads for cars. The space for cars quickly transitions to a programmed landscape and hardscape for active and passive recreational uses. Some areas do have on-street parking. That's part of T&D. But in all instances, the street transitions from the car to the pedestrian, the human scale, to active and passive landscapes for people to live, work, and play. This concept is supported by about 2.7 miles of landscaped sidewalks and multi-purpose paths that create view corridors throughout the site and unity amongst the open spaces. The Gullah Geechee Trail has been mentioned a couple of times now. It's been a hallmark of our project, I think, since the beginning. You'll remember last year, we brought this to you, and on this plan, and at council meeting, we talked about the Gullah Geechee Trail. That hasn't changed. We're still embracing the idea and concept of the Gullah Geechee Trail. I believe this will be the first segment actually built west of the river. It aligns with the WMPO feasibility study that council was briefed on back in December. In total, there's about 1.1 miles of multi-use path with access to nature, to ponds, to manicured landscapes, to community gathering spaces, and active and recreational components. The commercial area was planned around it being a community gathering space and informed quite a bit by staff. What was staff looking for? They wanted a place where people would congregate. And so when you look at that center commercial area, what you'll see is it's 3 buildings, but there's a courtyard in there. And the courtyard is kind of the focus of the gathering. And that's where we've decided to put the small stage for performing arts. This supports economic activity. It supports the businesses that will go there, and it supports the community that's going to be built around it and the community that exists around it already. All of this is accomplished in a footprint that respects the existing community and the River Road corridor. There's one point of access to River Road. That alleviates some turning movement conflicts that would occur along the road where we'd have more points of ingress and egress. It also provides some great interconnectivity into the surrounding communities, Mallory Creek and Westport. I did a quick measurement. If Fire Station 52 was to respond to an emergency over on North Culverton, they'd have to drive about 1.4 miles to get there, to the end of the cul-de-sac. However, North Culverton, the closest house to the fire station, is only actually about 580 feet, but it takes 1.4 miles of driving distance to get there. And so what we're trying to do through the extension of chambers and then our ingress-egress point out there to River Road is cut that down to about 0.6 miles of a drive distance. And I think that matters, when we hear with public safety that seconds matter. We've taken great care to ensure the existing vegetation along Mallory Creek Plantation is preserved. There's approximately 100 feet of distance between the homes on North Culverton and the back of the homes in this community. There's an area of approximately 60 feet wide between North Culverton and the back of lots on the new community here. South Culverton, we get down to about 50 feet, but I think from the beginning of this project, we have wanted to preserve the trees that exist on both the Mallory Creek Plantation side as well as this project side of the property line. So as I said, we're here to create opportunity for you, and really a focused opportunity. You know what you're going to get here. We've worked diligently with staff, with our neighbors, to bring you a plan for the property that we're pretty proud of, and I hope you are too. We've worked to identify the planning goals that align with your vision for Leland. And with that, I'm going to yield my time to the rest of the team. I'll be available for any questions you may have. Thanks for your time.
Hello, everyone. My name is Grayson Morgan. I am with D.R. Horton. So I wanted to talk to you all tonight about how we got here. As you know, we were here before. We had, I believe, that plan right there. We have brought before you previously to try to get rezoned. That plan was denied. The rezoning for that was denied. So I want to kind of go over the changes that we've made from that plan to now this plan. Previously, we had a site area of about 18.5 acres, and now our site area is made of about 31.5 acres. We previously had a pretty dense site plan of townhomes. 119 townhomes was proposed on this plan, and we currently are proposing 127 townhomes. As far as density goes, previously we had a density of about 6.47 units per acre, and we currently have about 4.63 units per acre, so a pretty significant decrease. We also have a lot more open space in this plan, as you can tell just from the eyeball test. We've incorporated a lot of multi-use paths throughout the site, a lot of active open space, and a lot of passive open space as well. We also have some buffers around our site. Previously we had proposed our 20-foot perimeter buffer, which was not listed as to remain vegetated. Now we are proposing along Tyler's Cove, where our property would meet Tyler's Cove. We have a 25-foot existing vegetated buffer, so all of the existing vegetation in that area would remain. And then where the property would meet the existing townhomes over there is a 20-foot existing vegetated buffer. We also have 25 feet of streetscape buffers along NC 133 and along Mallory Creek Drive. Previously, we did not include that. What is on this plan on the right side, that's the southernmost parcel. That was not previously included. So we now have direct access to Mallory Creek Drive through this site plan. We also are incorporating, as it was mentioned, we are incorporating the Gullah Geechee Trail throughout our site. I know that was a pretty important piece to incorporate. So previously, we were denied on June 20th, 2024. On July 18th, 2024, we had our first meeting with planning staff to talk about how we could make this project work for everybody. D.R. Horton, we are home builders. We want to put townhomes on the site. That's what makes sense for our business model. This property was zoned for commercial, is zoned for commercial. The town wanted to see commercial on the site. So we had to find a way to meet our needs as well as meet the town's needs. So on July 18th, we had the first meeting to talk about that. The big thing that came out of that was to have an integrated site plan that had residential and commercial. It was very walkable. The residents that live in these townhomes would be able to walk to any commercial buildings or retail stores or restaurants that we have on the site, as well as the residents that currently live in Tyler's Cove or any of the other Mallory Creek neighborhoods. It took a lot of back and forth. It took a lot of comments. It took a lot of examples that we looked at throughout the Wilmington area and throughout some other areas to figure out what this plan was going to look like. From July 18th, 2024, all the way through our rezoning submittal and through the planning board meeting. We had been working with planning staff through comments to make sure that this site plan worked for us and worked for them, and that we were meeting the town of Leland standards. So I just wanted to point that out. We have come a long way from our original site plan. Oops. Visually, this project now is much more appealing. The existing vegetation that we're planning to keep, the landscaping, the open areas. One of the comments that we received was to have good viewpoints as you drive through the site or walk through the site to see the ponds. I like bodies of water. I think they're a nice feature. They look nice on sites. So we made sure that there were nice open areas where people could see those bodies of water, the stormwater ponds. And I think that was a good comment. So anyway, I wanted to just talk through those things and tell you how far we've come. I believe this is a great site plan. I believe it's a great piece of property. I believe this would be great for the community, and I hope you all do too. Thank you.
Rather than speak under the.
Neil, Sabrina, you have,
Do you have anyone else? We have 2 minutes.
Yeah, 2 minutes.
I'm signed up to speak as an applicant, but rather than speak as an applicant, can I just speak in the resident comment portion?
where's the attorney?
I think that's fine for him to speak under either, whichever he prefers, whichever council prefers.
Okay, if you speak now, you can't speak later. Okay, all right.
Ian or John, do you have anything you'd like to add? All right. Thank you all very much.
Are you gonna?
I'll just do it under the general.
Okay. So now we'll have public comment from anyone in support, and you have those names, Sabrina?
Yes, ma'am. The first person that will have come up and speak is Susan Parker. When you go up, please state your name and address for the record.
Hello, my name is Susan Parker, and I live at 109 Jansen Lane, so I back up directly to this this proposed neighborhood, to the big field that's right there. And I knew when I bought my house 2 years ago that that was surely going to be developed. If you back up to a large piece of property, you got to pretty much assume that. But I figured I was good because there was this big berm and, you know, a stretch of woods there, and I was like, oh, it'll be fine. What I didn't understand is that those little strips of woods and trees is not necessarily protected. I didn't understand that that could just be ripped down by any developer. So I was thrilled when I did see this site plan, and I went to one of the public hearings and saw that this developer is planning, is promising, and I hope they really do, keep that strip of woods there. That makes all the difference. And then I was even more pleased to see that I would be backing up to other residential. So it's residential to residential, and then the commercial is closer to River Road. I thought for sure if they built something, it would be, you know, I would just have the trees and then it would be commercial. So I think it's great backing up to it. I'm excited to see a restaurant, to see some shops that I could walk to, that I could ride my bike to. I think the townhouse density is beautiful. I love the circular nature of it. I'll be walking over there all the time. And I really look forward to it. I think it's beautiful, and I think that it is something that would really add to the Leland neighborhood, and is a great compromise that our homeowners board worked out with the developer. I think it's been a really testament to them looking out for our neighborhood and working out some real win-win compromises there. So I would love to see it, and I hope that it comes around, because I can't wait to have a little restaurant right there, or a coffee shop, or whatever it might be, and then some new neighbors.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nicholas Newell.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Council, staff. My name is Nicholas Newell. I am the president of Mallory Creek Plantation HOA, Inc. I am here tonight representing the Board of Directors in Mallory Creek Plantation HOA, Inc., currently sitting at a little over 1,500 lots that are developed. The Board of Directors is asking for your vote of yes to approve the rezoning tonight. We feel like this is a big win for all parties involved, which is usually kind of hard to do. So we feel like, and I'll try not to repeat some of the stuff that other people said in the interest of time, but in terms of for the residents that are surrounding it, we like that, historically you wouldn't be given a chance to maybe not necessarily negotiate, but have your input other than these 2 community meetings that happen. And so we've been speaking with the developer, talking to them about the concerns that we have and the concerns that our residents have. We were very adamant from the beginning that if they intended on cutting down that buffer, because unfortunately North Carolina state views a buffer as trees go down and then we just put in 5-gallon bucket trees behind it, which is not a buffer in our opinion. So we were adamant that that needed to stay, and they were fine with doing that. We were also pretty strong on not wanting burning. The entirety of Mallory Creek has been burned to build, and that's an unfortunate reality of development. But there are other alternatives that are healthier, that are safer. I currently have a petition out online with over 1,000 signatures from people in North Carolina asking the state to stop the burning. So to have a developer that doesn't have to, but is saying, we'll do that, that's awesome. We also liked the Gullah Geechee Trail being added in there. That's going to save taxpayers money of a mile stretch that now they're going to pay for instead of us paying for. And as he mentioned, it will be one of the very first sections completed. And so I think that's going to help the WMPO make the rest of that happen quicker. We are excited about the possibility of having this commercial space that we can walk to and bike to from where we currently live. That land has been there for 20 years as commercial, and nobody's taken them up on it. And when we moved there, we knew that some kind of commercial would go in. And so it's exciting to think that within a couple years, we could have things that we can walk to and bike to, because right now we're kind of out on an island on our own. You got to get in a car to go anywhere. So these are just some things that we were really excited about. We were glad that they were willing to work with the town, that they were willing to work with us. So it's something that we're excited about and think is going to be really beneficial for all of the people in the area. So thank you guys for being here tonight and listening to all of us.
Thank you, Nick. That's all.
Yeah, that's all in support.
Okay. So now we got the ones in opposition, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Carol Grosbeer.
And please give your name and address.
Yes, my name is Carol Grosbeer. I live at 117 Emberwood in Mallory Creek, and I am here to speak against part of this development. There are many things that I've heard tonight that I like, but I would like to see the whole property be commercial, as it is the last piece of commercial property that Leland has coming out 133. I would like to see the whole thing developed as commercial the way it was originally stated that it was going to be before this conditional rezoning came up. As far as the townhouses that are going in there, if you look at the map that was presented, there are 5 townhouses right at the edge of Mallory Creek Drive. If you do anything, I would like to have you go back to the developer or the planning board, have those 5 townhouses eliminated, have that, see if they can't give us that piece of property for a dog park, which is something the residents of Mallory Creek have been asking for and asking the board over and over and over again, and we're not getting it. Also, there are a lot of things that have been said that the residents of Mallory Creek have had no input in. We were not invited to any meeting with the board to voice our opinions as to what we would like to see on this piece of property. So just please keep those things in consideration. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Carroll.
Scott Raymer.
Good evening, Council. Scott Raymer, 194 Amberwood Drive, Mallory Creek. There's been a lot of discussion about this. You know, we don't usually get an opportunity in our neighborhood to have any input on the types of developments that occur. But when we have a zoning opportunity, we do have input. And when I watched the presentation to the planning board in December, our board member implied that it was supported by the Mallory Creek residents. Maybe the 6 on the board, the other 1,500 were not even aware of this. And so I think that there's got to be a little more communication. When I first signed up to speak, I said, is there an undecided side? And I was told, no, either you have to say yes or no. I'm actually undecided. You know, we've got 1,594 property owners. We've never been consulted or polled. I don't know much about this other than what I hear from the developers tonight. If this has been set aside, this property that we're speaking of, for 20 years for commercial, obviously the town has been waiting for development to move down River Road. That implies to me that the time is now. Why are we going to give it up now? There's lots of opportunity for commercial. We like the idea of biking to stores, restaurants. We can do that with that property if it's properly set up. You know, I guess I just look at that, the Gula Gucci Trail, regardless, let's make sure that's included, whether it's commercial, residential, high density. But whatever happens affects not only Mallory Creek, Westport, all of our neighbors across the street, and up and down 133. What I'm asking the board is to table for now. Don't make a decision tonight. I've asked the residents of Mallory Creek to please reach out to you directly with their thoughts, because not everybody can be here tonight. So watch for that. And I'd like to afford the Mallory Creek Board an opportunity to hold a town meeting with our residents on this topic, bring in the developers, and address the specifics, the inclusion of this development into our HOA, and how it's all going to work, where the money flows, who benefits, who loses, big picture. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Stan Powers.
Hello again. I'm Stan Powers, 141 South Palm Drive. I heard some things tonight about this development. I talked to D.R. Horton about this a lot. The problem I have is I don't think the council is being told the whole story. We have our board representing basically D.R. Horton. Why? Because they want them to merge with Mallory Creek. Now, what that'll mean is Mallory Creek will get monies. We'll get the HOA fees, and we'll also get $1,000 per home, which, when you look at it, looks like a pretty good deal. The problem is it's going to add about another 250 to 293 people to Mallory Creek. So any amenities that we have are going to be maxed out. So yes, the money looks good, but the deal is not good for people in Mallory Creek. It's great for D.R. Horton. It's great for the board because they'll be getting monies and they can build us a couple of more amenities. The problem is, by the time this is built, we're going to need a third pool. We're going to need a bigger clubhouse. We're not going to get enough money from D.R. Horton to build those things. Plus, we don't have the land to build it. Now, I asked the Horton representatives, there's a piece of land that says playground. How big is that? Are we going to, if we merge, are we going to get that so we can build something else like a clubhouse? But if we have to build a third pool, we'd have to put it there. So why can't the Hortons, D.R. Hortons people build that pool? The other thing is, too, you have an entrance going into their commercial area off of Mallory Creek Drive. I already stated that there's going to be too much congestion on Mallory Creek Drive, and here you have another entrance coming off of and going on to Mallory Creek Drive. But now, there are some good things about it, like the people on Culverton like that buffer zone. But I live on South Palm. There's that new development behind me, Riverwalk Point. They were supposed to have a 30-foot buffer. What they did is they went back to the planning board, and now there's no more 30-foot buffer. There's a 30-foot encroachment. So why can't D.R. Horton do that? And now the people on Culverton don't have that buffer zone. There's so many things wrong. The other thing is there's only 30,000 square feet of commercial. The 2045 plan designated this for commercial. Now, I'd be willing to kind of compromise, but when you think of 30,000 square feet, that's less than an acre of land. It comes out like 1.6. So why can't they to compromise, why can't they come up with 5 acres of land and make it look something like the entrance of Brunswick Forest? I think most of the people in Mallory Creek would go for that, and it would be a compromise. But the way they have it now is D.R. Horton most likely would merge with Mallory Creek, and it's just going to create more people into Mallory Creek. I have no problem. Oops, sorry.
Thank you, Stan.
Okay.
Kay Schmaltz.
My name is Kay Schmaltz. I live at 408 North Culverton in Mallory Creek. And I too have heard good things tonight in terms of the changes that have been proposed. My biggest concern has been and continues to be that will be like living in a high-density downtown Wilmington environment. And I think the best thing about Leland is that it is not that it is open, and that when I come across the bridge, I can breathe. And I think that's its best feature. And to know that all of this building that's going on currently just south of Mallory Creek, let alone the proposed 127 townhomes north of Mallory Creek, I cannot even begin to imagine the kind of traffic issues and all the problems that come along with that in terms of impacting residential life in Mallory Creek. So I do appreciate the changes. I do support having some commercial enterprises in that area. I think everyone's in agreement with that. But that's just my feeling of the major impact that it would be traffic-wise, crime-wise, safety-wise, special services-wise. All of those things will have a major impact. And there will be 2 entrances now proposed into the small streets, Kellerton and on Chambers Street, that would lead from the commercial areas. Those are roads. So that also would impact the area. So I think there's room for improvement. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll close the public hearing, and now we'll start council discussion on this. I do want to, Mr. Hollis, can you explain to me why this is different? I know on a regular rezoning, if something is turned down, you have to wait a year before you can make a new application. So what makes this one different that it can be done?
Sure. So this project is a separate application and significantly different to the previous one you would have seen in the middle of last year. So that's why that time frame wouldn't apply in this situation particularly.
Okay. Because, after all these years here, that's all I've ever heard. You have to wait a year, you have to wait a year, so it just, okay. All right. I'm hearing a lot of different views on this, personally. I've gotten emails, I've gotten phone calls, I've been stopped in the grocery store. it seems like there's a lot of confusion. Did the residents of Mallory Creek know about the meeting? Did they get to go to the meeting? Would it be possible to have another meeting before this is a decision we make? I'm just throwing stuff out now, okay? I know if they want to, the developers want to develop and build, they're on a time frame. I understand that from my past, but I still want to make the citizens of our town happy in where they're living. And like I said, I've heard so many say they didn't know, and they didn't even know there was going to be a meeting. I don't know how that works in that neighborhood. I know how my neighborhood works with it, but I don't know that. I may have some more things, but y'all go ahead. Somebody, Bill, you want to start?
Yeah, I've got several questions. If I could read my own chicken scratch, I kind of ran out of space.
I know,
Well, Ben, since you're up here, I'll start with a couple. If this property was to remain C1, how big would the buffer requirement between that and Mallory Creek on that backside be? I know we're getting 25 feet here, I believe. What would the requirement be?
Yeah, it depends what the use is. So in the buffering text amendment we had at the beginning of last year, we split our permitted uses into different classes because not all, say, commercial uses, not all commercial uses are intense as other ones. So it's not for this area, but if you could put I don't know, a nuclear power facility or something like that, the buffer would be much larger than if you put a coffee shop. So with some of the uses they're proposing, even though it doesn't abut directly to the Mallory Creek homes, like a restaurant use, if memory serves, should be a class 3 against a class 2, which is a typical single family, and the buffer should be 25 or 30 feet.
A substantially similar situation. I know here they're insistent that the natural buffer stays, which is a win, but it would still be the same relative area. And, you know, considering the size here, we're not looking at a potential Walmart location or something on a 31-acre plot, right? It would be neighborhood.
That in. I will say, with just to speak to the site plan specifically that they have, being that it's residential against residential, and they're showing the 25-foot buffer there, that buffer, if it was built out to be residential instead of commercial, would be less than 25. I think it would be 10 or 15.
If it were to be rezoned to
residential
commercial,
against
right? That's what I'm saying. But if we kept it
yeah.
at a commercial use.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. I do have a couple of applicant-type questions. I'm not sure if you all have staff questions first, and then we can turn to the applicant, or if we want to bring them up for the inquisition.
Let me see if mine are technically staff questions. Let me just go back and look at my questions.
Let's do staff.
I guess it is somewhat of a staff question because it has to do with the loss of commercial. We recently had, and you know, I've been a big harker on maintaining the small amount of commercial that we have in the town. And we in fact sent back a proposal recently and asked the applicant to kind of swap out, put the commercial in a place where it made sense so that we didn't lose the acreage. And by my count, we're losing 17.24 acres of commercial. That's a lot because we don't have a lot to give up. So I guess I'm turning to the staff first and saying, I realized there were some compromises made here, but was there any discussion on, is there any available property somewhere else owned by the applicant in the town of Leland that could be rezoned into commercial to make up for this 17.24 acres?
So we didn't dive into other properties that D.R. Horton might own in the area, and the main reason behind that is D.R. Horton's a home builder, so they don't hold, at least to my knowledge, they don't hold many commercially zoned
They may not, but they
or-
could certainly go in and request rezoning of, let's say, an R to a C.
Yeah, we could explore that. The reasoning behind staff being more okay with the reduction in commercial in this area is for a couple of reasons. One is how long this property has lied unused. I think way back when it was probably used for forestry, and it hasn't been forested in at least 15 years, but probably much longer than that. And also the surety that a conditional rezoning provides us. So I think it's important to balance the amount of commercial we have for sure, but also the quality of commercial that we can get. And especially with new state laws kind of restricting our ability to ensure certain aspects of site design through by right development, as is the case with.
And of course, if
current
the
C1.
owner of the property is okay with it, then that new state law actually doesn't prohibit us from doing it. And I'm going to stop for a second here because I keep hearing through this presentation about how it has sat unused for 20 years. I've been here for over 20 years, okay? There was a whole bunch of stuff in this town that wasn't like it was 20 years ago because nobody was here, quite frankly. You know, we went from about 4,000 people to 34,000 people. So yeah, a whole bunch of stuff sat unused for 20 years, and now it's suddenly getting used. So that's not a real good excuse. Now, I don't want to jump on you, Ben, but that's not because you weren't the first one to utter those words.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
just
no, don't worry about
going,
it.
there's a whole bunch of land in the town of Leland, which is only 35 years old, that went unused for 20 years. Just throwing that out there.
Longer than that.
Okay, I'm just throwing that out there, so.
It's 20 years since we zoned it.
Hello, just throwing that out, okay. That's all I've got for staff, so anyone else?
Bob or Richard, you got anything?
Well,
You go ahead.
I was accused of asking a lot of questions, so I'll continue my reputation. And I was looking at the concerns from the meeting that some folks attended, and one of the things was clear cutting. On your map showing a few protected trees there, from what I can see on the site, it doesn't look like there's a lot of trees there anyway, is there? Are there?
Existing trees on
Yes,
the site?
yeah.
There's plenty of existing trees on the site. The ones that were outlined in that tree survey were ones that fell into the category of significant trees by our
Right.
ordinance, which is why you only saw a few. So most of the trees out there are very young pines that don't meet the 24-inch diameter at breast height for significant trees. So that's why you don't see as many trees on the tree survey.
Bear with me. One of the things that you, and at the end of your presentation, said that they pretty much fall in with what we're looking for in the 2045 plan and so on. But there are exceptions to that. For instance, it doesn't show small-scale best management practices for stormwater management. And, particularly in light of the fact that we've had so much flooding here lately even, is that, in staff's opinion, the lack of more or better stormwater ponds, is that a consideration? What they're proposing, is that going to be adequate to keep that area from flooding?
Sure. So, and it'll be brought through the stormwater application process with the town. But our stormwater ponds for the town of Leland are designed to a 25-year storm capacity as opposed to the state's 10-year storm capacity. So as far as can the ponds deal with the water, the runoff from the site, it will once those stormwater ponds are submitted, or stormwater plans are submitted through our engineering department. So they'll look at that and make sure that they're at capacity or have enough capacity for the runoff produced by this development. Was that close to what you were asking?
Yeah, I guess what brings up another question, then, if we approve this tonight, and then it went to for a study on stormwater impact, and for the sake of discussion, it's decided that there's not enough allowance for prevention of stormwater runoff and the possibility of flooding, what does that then do to what we're doing here tonight?
Sure. So if it progresses forward and stormwater plans are submitted to our engineering department and they find, hey, wait a minute, these ponds are way too small and they're going to have to be this much wider and this much deeper, and that affects the layout of the site plan to a good degree where things are shifting around, it'll have to come back through the board approval process. So the sizes of stormwater ponds should be sized appropriately for the expected level of runoff. There might be slight changes as they go through the more fine-tuning of those stormwater approvals, but if something catastrophically needed to change with the site plans, it would come back through planning board and town council for approvals.
Okay. I think other questions I have are probably for the developer.
Can I piggyback off of what you just said, though,
Go
with
right ahead.
stormwater? Because I did note it, there was a portion of the presentation that mentioned the the type of clay and the slow infiltration, as well as the fact that we have various wetlands in that area. And then for the part, and I'm sitting here flipping through my notes here, the part that talks about what part of this doesn't actually is inconsistent with 2045, and it talks about this plan does not offer small-scale best management practice BMPs for stormwater management that can lessen the strain on the stormwater ponds, and it goes through a number of things. This is on page 9, if you guys are looking through your presentation there. As well as going down to infrastructure on page 10, the proposed plan does not detail how common areas will be landscaped. These areas can be designed to aid in the water retention and planted. The thing that hit me when I saw the part about the stormwater as well as the wetlands and the type of clay and the slow infiltration of that clay was whether or not, I'm sorry, I'm not talking into the mic, my bad. The thing that hit me when I was listening to all of this and going through it was we've got wetlands, lots of water, slow infiltration of that water because of the clay, and now we're not using best management practices.
The potential.
We're not incorporating best management practices.
Yeah.
So if you don't mind, let me speak to stormwater for a second. So stormwater is not about flooding. Stormwater is about treatment.
Right.
So what we're trying to do is treat that water in the appropriate way. So when it goes through a stormwater design, you're looking at the travel of water through a pond where sediment falls out of it and where it has an opportunity to eliminate some of those contaminants that are in the water. They need to be sized appropriately to a storm, but the point of that is not to control the flooding, but is to control the treatment of that volume of storm. So best management practice where you might have a small infiltration area or a small created wetland area that could help absorb some of the nutrients that come in stormwater runoff. Those type of things can be incorporated, but a stormwater treatment pond accomplishes the same goal of the treatment of the runoff.
It is worried about the treatment, but it is also, I'm also concerned that, of course, if that runoff overwhelms the stormwater treatment because it's flooded, then the two are connected. They're not built for that, but there is a connection there.
The runoff runs through the stormwater
Right.
treatment process. It treats essentially the first flush of water that comes off of a roadway or homes or anything else that may have contaminants in it. When you have a flood, nothing treats the flood.
Correct.
Because that's exactly what it is a flood. But a 25-year storm event is a very significant event, and the treatment facilities will have to be designed to capture that volume and treat it over a period of time, typically 2 to 5 days.
I think that's what, a bit about what we're concerned here was, and what you just said was capture. Not just treat, but capture that water, so.
Where's it capturing?
Yeah, so the treatment facilities will have to meet that design criteria that we have. And this is true for any development, not just this, but for any development, it has to meet that criteria of capturing the 25-year storm event and treating it. Anything beyond that becomes runoff, but it captures that first flush and treats it.
The fact that it's hardened, or well, I don't want to use the wrong term, but there is clay involved in slow infiltration, means that first flush may be a very large flush.
Well, that's part of the design.
Correct.
So when you design it, you look at what type of soils you have, you look at what the runoff is, you look at what's impervious and may be somewhat pervious, in a hard pan situation, and you design it for that. So obviously, more water runs off of clay than it does off of sand. So you calculate that and you include that in your volume when you're designing that stormwater facility to capture that. So it will have to capture that. And clay is good for a stormwater pond because you want the pond to function, you want it to hold water, because that is what the treatment process is.
One more while you're here, Ben, either one. I guess maybe the other thing I'm concerned or thinking about is it says it doesn't offer any small-scale best management practices. So tell me what small scale means.
Yeah, so small scale would be like in a grassed area in a parking lot, you might have a flume that goes into this grassed area where there's some trees or something, and you have water that can infiltrate into that area, or you might have a created wetland or something that's small scale. Those things capture a little bit of the water, and lots of small pockets of treatment are a good thing because you're treating in a variety of ways. There's opportunity to incorporate that water back into the ground. So those are good things to do when they're practical. They're not always practical in every case. It's not required in any stormwater design that you have to use low density design for stormwater. You have to treat the water. You can pick a variety of ways to do that. Sometimes it's small scale, sometimes it's large scale, like a stormwater pond. It's a good thing if you can incorporate small scale, but it's certainly not the requirement here. It's one of our goals in 2045 to do things like that, but it's not the requirement of the stormwater regulations.
Okay.
Richard, you got any questions?
I got one question. About 1,600 property owners in Mallory Creek, right? Over what period of time do you think it would take to build out the commercial side of that?
The existing commercial we have right now, that
And
area,
the new commercial that's coming in on the lots.
the new commercial coming in on existing
It's got
lots.
its own commercial, there's gonna be a commercial structure built there, right?
Oh, and their proposed site plan?
Yeah,
Yeah, what time span it would take to get that in?
to build it out.
I think that might be better suited for the applicant.
Okay, we can,
Timetables
we'll
like
go
that.
there next.
Okay.
Anybody else got any for staff? All right, applicants, do you want to go, is it Grayson? You want to go to the mic, please? I personally, listening to the people talk, some say they didn't know about the meeting, some said that their mind has changed on some things since they've been here. I'll tell you right up front what I would like, or would it hurt to have another month and then have another meeting with the homeowners? Give them another chance to see what you showed us tonight, and so that we can make the right decision.
Yes, ma'am. I'll introduce myself first. I'm Ian Flannery. I'm the land manager for DR Horton, Wilmington Division. As far as the public meetings are concerned, the representatives from Thompson Hunting probably speak to it better than I, but as you know, staff knows, there is a process for notifying anybody within a certain radius that's affected by the site plan. So obviously they follow the protocols. Typically, we know word of mouth
travels, social media travels, so typically it travels throughout. I don't know, a representative from the HOA would have to speak to their internal process for notifying residents and how decisions are made there.
And I think that's to me, what I hear, part of the problem is not D.R. Horton
Correct, to see it.
not being public and informative. It's an internal HOA problem, and I live in an HOA, and I know that happens. And I was very involved in my HOA, and any time that we tried to do something, hoping that the residents would come and speak, nobody did until their assessment went up. Well, where were you when this plan was coming about? And I don't know what their HOA's policy is on letting people know how they get the word out. But it sounds like there were people that knew about it.
Yes, sir.
I think that's an internal issue with their communication, not so much with you and the rest.
So first and foremost, I don't have the rest of the board here tonight, but I am speaking on their behalf. I'm sure that as a board, we would have no issue with waiting and having another meeting. What I do want to note is that, sorry, that's my phone. What I do want to note is this. This has been a discussion for over a year. Last fall, this went through 2 or 3 community meetings, went through a planning board meeting, it went through a town council meeting, and then now here it is again, and it's gone through 2 public hearings. A resident came during the planning board meeting here last time from Mallory Creek and thanked council for posting on the property a sign that said this property is subject to conditional rezoning. We have spoke about it at HOA meetings, and after the last planning board meeting, there were 2 posts made on a neighborhood social media page with 5,000 residents, one against and one, I guess, kind of for. I don't really know that either one were necessarily against or for, but there were 2 posts, and one leaned more for. And that one has about 90 interactions with residents who were fine with this. And the one that was against had about 10 interactions from people who weren't okay with it. And so granted, that's not everybody in the neighborhood, but if you take a cross-section of Mallory Creek, it's definitely leaning towards most people don't take issue. I mean, they certainly don't take issue enough to show up here tonight. I mean, Mr. Raymer is valid in that not everybody can be here tonight, and unfortunately, as we've seen over the years, people just don't take a very active role in the HOA, in our town council meetings, and it really is unfortunate, but I mean, you can only do so much, and if people aren't going to get involved, then they're not going to get involved. So, from an HOA perspective, as we're an applicant on this, I don't have an issue with having another meeting, and I don't have an issue with having another meeting because I have spoken to the residents. We have put it out there. We have talked to people, and I've heard what their concerns are. We've brought those concerns forward, and and no, that's fine. There has not been a presentation like there was tonight, but we have had discussions at meetings. The information has been out there. The legal requirement has been met with putting it out there. So, no one's been intentionally kept in the dark. So if that's what council would like, there's other applicants on this, but the HOA has no issue with having yet again another meeting. But I think it will be a very similar to what you have tonight, where you're going to have a couple people who don't want it to happen, and then the rest of the people who just don't care.
Can I
Wait a minute. One of the reasons I'm saying have another meeting is because it came up about the pool, the amenities. I saw on the proposed plan that the amenities, it was going to have the pool and the different things. But everybody needs to understand what all that's going to mean. to them. If it's gonna be part of everybody's HOA fees or whatever, everybody needs to know. And that's why I just wanna make sure people understand.
And again, I have no problem doing that. If that is what is going to make more people feel at ease, we can host a forum at the clubhouse.
When do you hold your HOA meetings?
Our meetings are held once a month. We do have one coming up at the end of this month.
I mean, like it's at the 4th?
No, it's just based off availability. So the next one is happening at the end of January.
What time of day?
They change throughout the year. So we do one in the morning, we do one in the afternoon, and we do one in the evening. And we do that because in Mallory Creek, we have retirees, we have people who work normal 9-to-5s, we have people who are police officers who work night shifts. So we try very hard to put them on a revolving schedule. So no matter whether you're free in the mornings or free in the evenings, over the last few months, we've had a lot of meetings in the evenings. We had our annual meeting. We just had an election, which is our biggest meeting of the year. So, you know, and our meetings are very heavily advertised. We are consistently trying to get people to come to our meetings. We model our meetings a little bit after town hall meetings. We have resident comment period at the beginning with 3-minute time limits. And we let everybody speak at every meeting, even though sometimes the meetings turn into chaos. I'm a very firm proponent of letting people come and say whatever it is that they want to say.
And the only reason I ask that is because everyone up here is a member of an HOA. And the very first, and I'll say on the record, because it's part of the record, the very first HOA meeting in Waterford 20 years ago, the police had to be called, okay? Let me just put that out there. But we've evolved over the last 20 years, where if there's something important, a proposal, there was a proposal for a new fitness center a few years ago, and I'm going to tell you, most of the time, I can't make the meetings because I have conflicts. Sure. But I get a newsletter, I get an email, there's little notes. I think most people have driven through Waterford and Pine Harvest and seen our little notes of a meeting or whatever thing we have going on in the clubhouse. There's ways of getting that information out. And even the fact that when you say that your meetings move, I know that if the meeting this month is at 10 o'clock in the morning, next month it will be at 6 p.m. in the evening. I know that that's just the way the dates are put out and the times are put out ahead of time. I have, like many of the other council members here, been stopped in the supermarkets, been stopped in Walmart. I have members of my church who live in Mallory Creek. I have been stopped a great deal. You said there were 6 people. I looked on one of your lists. There were like 4 people that signed up. I've had probably a dozen folks. I've had some email me, some text me, and some talk to me personally about this. And almost to a person, they said they did not have an opportunity to come to a meeting. And now I'm disturbed by the fact that just about everyone here looked and said this was the first time they had seen the proposal. So we can hold a meeting and say, here's what we're going to do. I'm personally a visual person. I need to see things. I learn better that way. And I know that it's not necessarily required. I'm not talking about the requirements for the town. I'm just talking about the HOA requirements, okay? So that's concerning to me, Mr. Hollis.
So I would suggest that council do not put the burden on the HOA to have a meeting. If the request is to have an additional community meeting, then it should meet the standard of the community meeting requirement in the ordinance and through state law. Okay. If they want to have it in conjunction with an HOA meeting, that's their pleasure, but it should be a community meeting with notification and everything according to the law, and have another one of those where they have that opportunity to do that. They have met the requirements.
They have.
But if that's a request of council, I think you can request that. I don't think that you can require that as a condition of approval or denial or delay. I think that's simply a request that you can ask.
And that's what I'm asking. I'm asking, could it wait till next month? And in that time, can some of the folks see this presentation that we've seen tonight?
And I'm
That-
telling you,
that
as
has
far as the HOA is concerned, we don't have, I, the president, on behalf of the board, have no issue with hosting either at our upcoming meeting or a special meeting. And the reason why I'm okay with that is because I have spoken with so many of these individuals myself, through text messages, through phone calls. They came to our meetings. This is not something that just happened yesterday. This has been going on for over a year, and we have discussed this at multiple board meetings. And our board meetings, I'm very proud with our communication about how we put things out there. We send out an e-blast to every single person, whether they are a renter or owner. We have a Facebook page that's an official page that you can only get on if you are a verified resident. That goes through our management company. It gets put on a bunch of other Facebook pages that are run by residents. And it's also put on our neighborhood calendar. And we are continually, with every communication that we send out, normally about 2 communications a week, telling people, if you have comments, if you have questions, if you have concerns, please reach out to our association manager. We want people to have the feedback. So what I don't want is people feeling like this was pushed through without them having the opportunity to speak on it. I think that they
That's
have.
what I wanna.
Sure, yeah. And so as far as I'm concerned, I'm happy to do it. Now, it's not up to me. I'm just telling you, we have no reservation with giving people another opportunity. I do feel like they've been given many, but if another one is going to make people happy, I am happy to do it.
Okay, developers?
I have a question too, to piggyback off of that. Kind of.
So we would have some questions in terms of how this meeting is conducted, who's responsible for notification, what that notification looks like, where the meeting can be held. You know, we would need some clarification on what exactly the meeting is. If the burden is on the developer, on the applicant to set the meeting, send out notifications in a larger area, we need to find out what exactly it is that you need us to do for a meeting. If the town is open to hosting a meeting, if the town is open to the notification process so that all of Mallory Creek residents are notified of the meeting, those are specifics that we would need to figure out. I'll yield to Ian to find out if it's even something that he would consider.
Yeah, I would echo Mr. Davern's comments. We're open to holding another public meeting, but we've done what the town asks in its ordinances and the state law.
I appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am.
I appreciate that.
So yes, we are open to another community meeting, but again, if you feel like the community meetings we've already held are not adequate, we would like to know, again, to those, the how to go about that so that it is adequate for the town.
Again, I don't think, from what I'm hearing, I don't think that the presentations that y'all have done are inadequate. I think the inadequacy is on the other side, from what I hear out here, that however you drag these people into their HOA meeting, that's where the weakness is.
Yes, sir.
All I can say, Nick, is good luck. Been there and done it.
I have a couple of questions that don't have to do really with the HOA part of it. It does have to do with communication, though, since I have you up there. The Gullah Geechee Trail has been mentioned multiple times here. Who at the WMPO have you shown this presentation to and coordinated it with?
So staff is going to be able to answer that because we are not invited to WMPO meetings.
They're public meetings.
We are not invited as an applicant. Basically, what happens is they have a coordination meeting between the WMPO and town staff. They present the project. That's usually for the traffic impact analysis.
No.
But in terms of the Gullah Geechee Trail, ma'am, the feasibility study that was conducted takes the Gullah Geechee Trail through this property. There's a corridor that has been identified, and it goes directly through this property.
Which segment was that, sir?
I'm sorry?
Which segment was it?
Mrs. Carter, if I may, Mr. Danford is correct. The feasibility study that the WMPO adopted and the one that town council adopted had some preferred alignments. That preferred alignment does go through this property. So it's not necessarily about the.
I'm quite aware of that, but the reason I point this out is that, again, it brings communications, because there's also, as you're well aware, and maybe Mr. Danforth's not aware, that I sit on the 501c3 for the cultural trail. And I just checked with the former president to ask if he had seen this before, and he has not. And I know of it only because of my role here on town council. So the Gullah Geechee people, they're indigenous people who, many of their descendants still live in this area. And the idea is not just to have a bike ped trail. We have bike ped trails all over the place, and we have plans for them throughout each of our communities. The idea is to capture the history and the culture and the things, and just the mere fact, quite frankly, and this is a point of personal privilege here, to say that we're running the Gullah Geechee trail through something that's named Plantation is troublesome. Okay, that's troublesome, because you're talking about formerly enslaved people who were perfectly specific. I know we're getting off the trail, but I know we're getting off the topic. We're on rezoning, but again, I didn't bring this up. They brought it up. They've mentioned it, I don't know how many times through this briefing. And this was the first time it was mentioned during this briefing. And so I think, not being of Gullah Geechee descent, but having spoken to many of them, if we're going to use their name and their term to kind of get to grease the skids here, then let's do the homework and communicate with someone either from the group, the federal commission that exists, or just say to WMPO, hey, listen, we're willing. I will tell you, and I'll say this again to the staff, that there are developers in other municipalities who have been in touch with the WMPO staff on their portions that go through their property. And that's why I asked specifically the question. And if you want, I can tell you which towns they are, and I can get those names for you. So that wasn't a random question of me just trying to pick on you. I want to know if you actually had done what at least 2 other developers in one municipality have done. That's all I've got.
So that process is part of the TRC process. The trail location, exactly where it would be on this property, what amenity it would be associated with, anything like that. I think what is being captured here is that they're willing to put the portion that has been identified going through this route, through Mallory Creek Plantation, because that's the name of that. That's the route that was chosen by the Gullah Geechee.
Well, by the WMPO.
Group within the WMPO with input from stakeholders.
Right.
Of that route. It runs from the Brunswick County Nature Park up through what is Wire Road, turns on Mallory Creek Drive, runs out to 133 at this location, takes the corner and heads north.
And considering it's $101 million in total, I have no problem with a developer stepping up and wanting to help pay for it.
Yeah, but the idea that it would be presented to everybody along the way, that will occur as the TRC process continues.
Once again, Mr. Hollis, I will say for the record, I did not bring this up. They presented it as a point in their presentation multiple times.
To accommodate the Gullah Geechee proposal,
and
but
all I wanted to know was who they had talked to.
Yeah,
the answer seems to be no one yet.
Yeah, so probably not. And the reality of that is that it's not required.
Understood.
Of them, and if it was to remain commercial property, it's not required for them to put in this section of Gullah Geechee Trail potential. It's an accommodation that they're willing to take with this proposal that they're wanting to point out that they're willing to accommodate. And I think that's the extent that we should consider it, is that they're willing to accommodate it, not to go beyond that and speak to why they're doing it, or beyond, or they're trying to grab a hold of that as a certain item for a certain reason. It's that it was identified and they're trying to accommodate it.
And that's laudable. However, again, it goes back to communication.
I don't get your point. I don't,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we're getting off.
If-
but anyway.
If
Bill,
I'm-
did you have any questions for the?
I have standard factual questions just to the development that I wanted to ask. Is there any assurance that these townhomes are going to go through standard private sale to individuals? You know, we talk a lot about housing affordability and the need for townhomes. We've seen a major shift towards their construction. They're a great entry-level point. But, you know, I live in Landvale Forest, and I watched a neighborhood that I believe was built by D.R. Horton come up of single-family entry-level homes that was sold to BlackRock or China or some individual company that's basically turned it into a glorified apartment building. So that's always a concern when we get into this sort of entry level. Is there any plan in place, any guarantee in place that these will be individually sold?
Yeah, well, so.
Or the inverse of
I don't know
the-
how you define, guarantee. To be honest with you, yes, at one point we were considering this as a, build to rent or build for rent, as we refer to it. In our conversations with Mallory Creek HOA, it was brought up as a concern. And so we essentially put in writing with our agreement with them that we are not doing build for rent or build to rent. They will be, fee simple, sold, not condo style, fee simple,
Somebody shows up with a billion.
single family attached homes, housing, yes, sir.
I want to talk about the green space. You talked about how 17 of the 31.5 acres are green space or recreation area. Does that calculation include the 4 retention ponds?
I'd have to, I'm not sure if that's calculated.
Yes, sir, that's everything except for roads and buildings.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Another one, there is just a single entrance there to 133, which leads me obviously to believe that the majority of the traffic in and out will be going through Mallory Creek. Is there a specific reason why there's only one entrance and exit to that major artery?
I mean, I think the thought was, funneling traffic through an intersection that's already signalized. And, DOT and with obviously engineers' vast experience of limiting the number of connections that close to a signalized intersection. But obviously, throughout the TIA process, DOT is going to evaluate that. They may not allow any connections onto 133. So, yeah, yes, sir. That was the thinking
To
about.
bring it through to Mallory Creek Drive because it has a signal?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
There was mention of a couple of significant trees. Is there a plan to preserve those particularly? I know those live oaks are in the right of way, but I don't know, is that going anywhere?
Those are ours.
The live oaks belong to the HOA? Okay.
Yes, sir. So the live oaks, yeah, obviously, we'd love to keep those. I believe the maples that were discussed, I believe the intent would be to try to keep those. The sweet gum, I don't know personally. I haven't seen that tree personally. Somebody mentioned it's in pretty bad health currently. Certainly, if it is a significant tree that can be saved, then we would like to try to do that.
And then lastly, for the commercial area, on this site plan, there's 3 significant buildings, 10,000, 12,000, et cetera. Is there a plan that will be broken up, or is it essentially planned to be 3 businesses? And then sub-question B, do you have anyone lined up? And at what point in construction of this entire plan do you expect that the commercial will take off? Is it going to be first? Is it going to be last? Is it all going to sort of happen at the same time?
Yeah, so just to clarify, the way, our structure with the sellers, the deal structure with the sellers is that the sellers will retain the commercial portion. So I can't speak to, their timing or whether they have interest. I'm not sure. I can say, a lot of the infrastructure we're installing ultimately, serves that commercial parcel as part of our agreement. So certainly that, helps to draw, I would think it helps to draw commercial businesses who are looking, as opposed to just looking at a blank slate where they have to put in everything. But I can't personally speak to any, plans for the commercial use.
That was all for me.
Okay.
I have one more while you're here. There was one area that didn't meet our plans or proposals. It says the plan doesn't detail how common areas will be landscaped. Those areas could be designed to hold water and so on. You got any idea when that landscaping plan would be put forward?
I mean, yeah.
So I believe through normal TRC, that's when the landscaping would be addressed. Ms. Carter brought up the trail. I think there's an opportunity there to work with the committee at WMPO on what they want that trail to look like in terms of landscaping. But if we need to put together a landscape package in order to get this approved, we're willing to work on that. That's typically something after the land is entitled and we're going through a design process. But we can certainly look at the landscaping and
My
bring it
question
back to
wasn't necessarily, it says, if you don't have this plan, I'm not going to agree to it. I just want to make sure that you have a plan somewhere in the future for all that to happen.
I have one more thing. I mentioned it before. There's 17 acres of commercial property that's been lost to the town, if we agree to this. Is there any other properties that D.R. Horton currently has that could be rezoned into commercial within the town limits to regain some of that commercial use back into the town?
So before you answer that, let me just interject here. To make a condition such as that you're looking for other lands and certain zoning on that would move us toward more like contract zoning, that we're asking for this to get that, and that's not something that we would deem appropriate.
I'm not necessarily making it conditional. I'm just asking if they would consider going back and looking, even within this area. I'm looking at some houses and thinking, were there other areas that you could make commercial? That was great that we did that, but we didn't even go with half. We went from 20-some to 4.
Yeah. And let me just make a comment too about commercial area in the town as well. We've talked a lot about commercial areas in the town and commercial zoning and what we have and what we don't have and what percentage of that exists compared to other zoning classifications. The idea that we don't have enough commercial land may be overstated in some ways. We have a lot of commercially zoned land that's being underutilized, that has not, it's not being used for commercial, that sits vacant and has sat vacant for a long time. So the demand for commercial land isn't such that it's consumed all commercial zoning. There's a lot of commercial zone property out there available for that use throughout the town. So I think we've emphasized that from a staff perspective in some ways, and it might have been misconstrued that now commercial land is the holy grail of things that we need in Leland, and that may have come across the wrong way. We certainly think commercial property is valuable from a staff perspective in the town, but there's a lot of it out there that needs to be used. So it's not like if we lose an acre here or 10 acres there or more acres along the way, doesn't mean that more commercial land isn't going to come into the town as we continue to grow and develop these areas around us. So I just want to make that statement because we've talked a lot about that from a staff perspective in previous meetings. And I don't want that to be misconstrued somehow.
And I appreciate that. However, I go back to my original comment of we've gone from 21.6 to 4.36. That's not anywhere close to even half. And this particular place, and we've had this conversation before, is actually that we've had areas that were commercial that didn't seem to be in the right place now because of the way the town has grown. This is at an intersection of a major roadway. I mean, these areas don't come about too often,
And if we could even go for closer to half of that, that might be it. Not to say this isn't a much improved, but maybe we could do a little bit better, I guess is what I'm asking.
Well, all I'm asking is if we could wait one more month and have another meeting, put the word out there. If they go, they go. If they don't, they don't. But I just want to feel comfortable with that. The ones I've heard say they had not seen the proposal, some that we heard tonight said they liked some of the changes that's been made, but that was the first time they'd seen it. I wanna know that the people had one more chance, and if they show up, they show up. If they don't, then so be it.
Is this a vote or?
And I'm not asking it to be a criteria or anything. I'm just saying I wish you would.
So, Madam Mayor, what it seems to me that you're asking is for council to postpone decision on this matter until next month, and that's really all council can do, and then simply make a request of the applicant to have another meeting, but certainly cannot require that.
Right.
All you can do is postpone it
agree.
and hear it again next month.
I just want to feel comfortable in how I vote.
Can we also request additional information about additional retail areas there?
Well, I think right now we need to, my main concern is knowing that the people know what's going on.
And I terribly disagree with you. I got that one.
It's all right,
I'm
we
with you
can
on that one.
disagree.
No, I said I terribly agree with you
Oh,
on that.
okay.
I agree with you on that. I think there needs to be another meeting if possible. I realize we can't require it.
If there is a request for additional information that staff can provide, we'll be glad to provide that to you. So if there is more items or information that you may need about any aspect of it, we'll be glad to give that to you.
Okay.
I'm not in favor of kicking this can down the road by postponing or whatever until, but what are you looking for next month from the applicant and/or the HOA?
Well, when I hear that they see the proposal tonight, and it's different from what they knew they were gonna get.
Where is everybody at?
Well, we don't know that, but I would just feel better if we had one more time to give them a chance. And if they don't show up, they don't show up, we vote whatever.
I have no objection to giving opportunity for more public comment, but for the benefit of everyone, I just want to be very frank here that this is the last piece of commercial property on 133. I know we've had these conversations about commercial property before and the give and the take, but I'm disinclined to want to give that up. I came into this with an open mind, and I'll be completely honest, you've put together a very, very nice site plan. I wish more of our residential zones looked like this. I wish it didn't take a conditional zoning of a commercial district to get something like this. But, this is our reality. But I don't think anyone in the community is going to have a problem if this sits vacant for a couple extra years for the purpose of getting commercial development. And before you all go forth and put that kind of significant effort, I just don't know what you could come back with that would move me on this particular issue.
Yeah, I don't feel like, for a little over 4 acres, giving up 20 acres is a good use of our commercial plan, considering, even though we may have oversold it, and I hate to use those words, considering what we've told other applicants and said in this room. So I'm not sure we've oversold it. I've personally bought into it. It's not like we have hundreds of acres out there. I don't think that, 20 to 4 is a good sell for me. I need to see something else. I'm just not feeling it, but.
All right, well, I think we've done enough on this tonight. We just need to make some kind of decision. Do we vote for it or against it, or do we postpone till next month?
So, Madam Mayor, again, the staff recommendation is before you, but, you know, here are the options during your decision.
All right. Council?
I move that we deny the motion for conditional rezoning as being not reasonable nor in the public interest because it is the last piece of commercial property on 133. 133 already has significant traffic and significant traffic issues. And this simply doesn't live up to what we're trying to do in that corridor.
I second it.
I'm not satisfied to vote, but a motion has been made. Can I abstain? I'm not ready to vote for this.
And abstention is a affirmative
Yes.
vote, so abstention is yes. You either, if you won't, if you're not inclined for that motion, you need to vote against it.
A motion to postpone.
Oh, we have a motion on the floor, point of order.
Yeah.
All right. So, Bill, you have the motion to deny,
I've second.
and Veronica second. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Richard?
Richard, are you?
Opposed.
Okay.
What?
Opposed.
It's 3-2.
All right, so we need a motion on what to do next. Do we want to postpone? Do we want to?
Richard, do you want to make a motion to postpone?
Yeah, I might make a motion to postpone.
I'll second.
So,
February 20th
yes, please, Madam Mayor.
at 6 o'clock or shortly thereafter. Okay?
Okay.
All right,
Do we have discussion?
sure.
What are we asking for if we postpone it? What are we requesting additional information about?
Giving them time to go back to their HOA and understand what the proposal's all about and let them be familiar with it and get comfortable with it.
I just want to say that there's been, that the people can say they had a chance.
Okay.
And it's not, I mean, just 30 days, I would hope that's not a dire thing for the developer, because I know you want to get started. And I love to see things go up, whether it's houses, commercial, or whatever. I love it. It's like seeing a baby, having a baby, and watching the baby grow.
Can I ask an additional point of order? What is involved in that required meeting that you discussed earlier?
We don't have to require it.
No, not required. I'm sorry. You mentioned something about state statute having some sort of meeting.
Yeah,
under
there is a
state
standard
statute.
for a community
Right.
meeting. I'll ask Mr. Watts to come up and explain that.
So the standards for communication for conditional rezoning are kind of twofold. In our town ordinance, we require the applicant to notify all property owners within 500 feet of the property. So in this case, that's 500 feet in a big bubble, so not just in Mallory Creek, but all the other areas as well, including county zoning districts. They have to notify and hold two meetings, two community meetings. One has to be after 6 p.m. So that's our ordinance requirement for notification of those community meetings. As far as state statute goes for rezonings and conditional rezonings as well, there is a requirement for public hearings to be advertised in the newspaper twice. We have a requirement to post the property, and we also have a requirement to mail snail mail letters to all property owners that directly abut the property. We do take that a step further because we find a lot of neighborhoods kind of have those periphery parcels where it's just the HOA that owns it. So we'll extend that to not just abutting, but the houses that are on the other side of those stripped parcels. And then we also go a step further to apply all of those notifications to public meetings, planning board meetings, which aren't public hearings. So state statute just requires it for public hearings, but we do that for planning board as well, just to make sure that it's an even notification for both planning board and town council.
Okay.
I'm hearing going back a little bit in conversation, David, we can postpone this based on information that we may get or will get, should get from the applicant and the HOA. But we can't make them, or can we, make them have these meetings?
We can't make them, but they've already fulfilled that.
So, all the things that Ben just said, really, I don't know how that has any bearing other than as a guideline for their,
Absolutely. I mean, that standard doesn't apply if it's a simple request to have another meeting with the community. You can request that they follow those guidelines. They are not obligated to. They have met that standard that Mr. Watts has just explained
and that's my point.
already in their community meetings. They've met that standard.
Right.
But you don't have to make that request. You can simply postpone it because you're not ready to make a decision within your own self right now. You don't have to postpone for more information or anything else. You just can postpone because you're not ready to make a decision.
And I think, if we're going to postpone it, we should at least identify why we're postponing it.
The ones that came tonight and said that after seeing the presentation, they like it, they're not completely against it. So maybe they go out and help spread the word.
That's up to
We have
them.
another meeting, and then if they show up at our next meeting against or for it, we'll know.
Is it possible to request that the presentation be made at the HOA meeting?
Well,
We can request it, they don't have to, but.
anyway, we've got a motion on the floor in a second. I'm gonna call for a vote. All in favor?
Madam Mayor, the motion was made by
Richard.
and the second,
I second.
Mr. Campbell. Okay.
Okay, so all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Okay, 3-2. All right, so we will have it next month, on next month's agenda, February the 20th at 6 o'clock or shortly thereafter. Okay?
Thank you.
And those are the ones here that spoke tonight. If you will put the word out. So,
Would like to see this presentation.
okay.
You're out of order, please.
All right, we're out of order. We're out of order, sir. Okay. All right. Mr. Hollis, you got anything else?
No, the next item when you move forward.
Is our old and new business? Staff reports you got on your iPads?
Yes, ma'am. As part of that, Mr. Powers spoke about signs on Mallory Creek. I wanted to just notify council that we have installed additional signage there, and we're looking at more signage.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Does anybody have any council reports they want to make?
No.
Okay. Hearing none, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right. Thank you.